swag of a prize fighter. The antithesis of a firefighter. Arsonist, I'm a fire rider. Instant flame like a firelighter. So special with shows, I live out my flows. Can't walk in my shoes, can't purchase my clothes. Ice in my veins, but I never froze. Picture perfect, but I never pose. As a juvenile, I knew I bounced back. Got rated, had a plan to get my ounce back. Use cheese as bait, that's a mousetrap. Let me to the right person to pounce at. They selling dreams, I'm pulling receipts. Full force, we can't be beat. Got a dirty mouth, but the flow so neat. Keep your 2 cents, talk is cheap.
The next topic we're going to discuss on Boxing Bros is Jake Paul challenges Carl Froch, the Cobra, to a fight. I see your face, Trill Dollar Bill. Yeah, it's true. It happened. Oh, it happened. We about to look at it right now. So, Carl Froch apparently has been, so let's take a look. This is Michael Benson. It says Jake Paul making a public challenge to Carl Froch to set up a fight between them after Froch called him a clown. So this is Jake Paul's tweet. He said, Carl Froch mad because I made more in 1 year than he made his whole career. You want the payday? I get it. So let's do this. Fight Anderson Silva at Spider Anderson on my undercard, on my next card. And if you get lucky and beat him, then we can step in the ring and make your career payday. Let me know. That's what he said. So he's issued the challenge to Carl the Cobra Froch, basically saying, if I'm such a clown, fight Anderson Silva on my next card, and we gonna be the main event at the next one. So, Trill, you know Carl the Cobra Froch. What's your reaction to all this?
I first of all, I respect it, Jake. I respect what you're saying. Leave that alone. Please leave that alone. We're talking about the Cobra. Carl Froch here. He's a legend. He should be a Hall of Famer if he's not already. We're talking about the Cobra Carl Froch here. We're talking about 33 wins, only 2 losses, and his losses and he revenged one of his losses, and that was to Mikkel Kessler, right? And then he lost to the great Andre Ward. That's not a knock on that, And Carl Froch beat everybody. He fought
that big fight, 80,000. What's the guy's name again?
He beat Arthur Abraham.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? He's not
Anthony Durrell.
Look what he did to George Groves twice.
George Groves, 80,000, Wembley Stadium.
Oh, man, you talking about be respectful, okay? Be respectful. He's like, I'm gonna be 100. The reason why, I fell in love with the UK and UK boxers was a big reason was because of Carl Froch. For real. And my other guy, Joe Kawasaki. You know what I'm saying? But Carl Froch had that attitude. I never seen a guy come out with that type of attitude, that swag, talking trash, like, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. He had that type of energy that I loved. That was the Cobra. Nah, you can't. Nah, man, the Cobra's always going to be, you don't want that smoke. You don't want that smoke unless the Cobra got some hidden crazy injuries where he can't lift his arms or something, but you don't want that. You don't want that with the Cobra. The Cobra is a legend. I'm giving him mad respect because I got nothing but love for Carl Froch. And I think Jake Paul needs to leave that alone.
I hate conspiracy.
Respect your elders. Look, listen. People like Carl Froch got a right to speak on if he's not disrespecting you or whatever, you know what I'm saying? I mean, listen, he earned that right. He's critiquing. He feels like some of the antics that you do are clownish or whatever. This is everybody. These are the greats. A lot of them had things to say about you. He earned that right. He's critiquing boxing. He don't like how you moving or something. That's him. He's the analyst now. But you calling him out might be some trouble for you.
All right, Spirit G.
I'm looking at it from another perspective. I think what Jake is doing is kind of smart, because when you look at it, Carl Froch is retired, right? Like years removed from the ring. Jake Paul's active. And what Jake said was, how about you fight Anderson Silva on my undercard? Mind you, he just fought Anderson Silva, right? And he beat Anderson Silva. If Carl Froch, Anderson Silva, if that fight is like decent, it legitimizes Jake Paul. And Jake Paul could learn from that fight, observing how he's compared to Carl Froch against Anderson Silva to see how he needs to prepare for Carl Froch. You know what I'm saying? So either which way, Jake Paul has a great chance of winning. And even if he loses to Carl Froch, he lost to a legend. So it's not like people going really down this dude. It's like, come on, man. It's like, it's still a win-win for Jake Paul. So, like, honestly, this looks bad on Carl Froch's legacy if Carl Froch loses to a Jake Paul. You know what I mean? So it's like, Jake knows what he's doing, bro. Because if Carl Froch doesn't take the fight, then Jake's going to talk trash and be like, yo, you scared of me, blah, 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 blah. Or if he does take the fight, there could be a chance that Jake Paul could possibly win. But even if Jake Paul loses, he's supposed to lose. So it's not like he's really losing that much. You know what I'm saying? This is just a learning experience. That'll be like what his 6th or 7th professional fight. Come on, Sean. Like, I don't know. It's like Jake knows what he's doing, man. It's all marketing and it's just Jake Paul antics, man. You know what I'm saying? But at least this will be an official boxer. Even though he's retired, it's still a boxer rather than an MMA retired fighter. So he's progressing.
He's stepping up to retired boxers, right?
Hey, man. That counts. He's stepping in the right direction. I'll say that.
All right, TBE.
I see your point, G. I get it. If he calls out Jake, if he Carl Froch accepts the challenge, and it's a win. It's just a win-win for Jake Paul, But if he beats Carl Froch, like, the dude's been inactive for years. Like, you get no brownie points for that, man. You don't get caught. Like,
I'm sorry, I disagree with you.
Why?
It's layers to this, man.
Yo, you get no brownie points for being
Carl
a guy
Froch is the UK legend, bro. I bet you Carl Froch can go to any pub and not pay for a drink.
True.
You know what I'm saying? So if Jake Paul beats this dude, now people going to try to make excuses, whatever. But in the back of like a lot of people mind, I'm like, yo, but he just beat a legend, bro.
But you telling them to fight Anderson Silva on a card that's next week. That don't make no sense, man. It's just like you gotta give that man some time. Like, if you really want the challenge, give the man the respect to train, get himself in shape, then get back in the ring. You don't tell him go fight Anderson Silva next Sunday.
I agree with you.
And then you want him after that. Like, that's not cool. Jake Paul always finding a scapegoat to get that on his belt that he beat an actual boxer. You're not gonna do that with Carl Froch, Jake Paul. Get your act together. Go fight somebody. You fighting Tommy Fury, and hopefully that ends well for you, because then we'll probably celebrate you. I'll probably give you your props, but go fight Tommy Fury. Let's see how that comes out. All right, that's it.
Yeah, I don't know, G, man. I feel like you tripping, man. Like, Carl Froch was a legend in his day. Now I was going to say he was a legend. Carl Froch was a great fighter in his day. Now he's just a legend. A legend means like you're done, you're retired, you chilling. So like if this was Carl Froch like 2 or 3 years removed from his retirement, fine. But you're talking about Carl Froch who's been retired for a long time. Carl Froch who's been in a lot of wars. Like, this dude's been in there with real fighters, real punchers. Like, he's dedicated his life to the sport. Then you got a young guy like Jake Paul who comes in and wants to build his reputation off of an old guy who has a rep based on what he did when he was great. And like, to me, I have an issue with it. MMA fighters will let him get away with it, mainly because they want to prove they can box, and mainly because they wanted a bag. What's well known is that MMA fighters don't make as much as boxers do. So A lot of them were getting paid more for their fights with Jake Paul than they were making when they were actually fighting at the peak of their powers in MMA. But someone like Carl Froch, he's been a boxer his entire life. So to me, there's a few things. One, it depends on how much Carl Froch would have left. But if Carl Froch actually has some left in the tank and he feels like schooling a young punk, he can take the fight. But I believe that once they get word that Carl Froch is taking it serious and Carl Froch still got some left in the tank, they'll back out of that fight. They won't take that fight. If they find out the Cobra still got some bite left in them, they won't take that fight. But if he beats Carl Froch, like that's going to legitimize him. No, it doesn't. I see this all the time. I see like great older athletes who are in like their 50s and their 60s, and they'll come to the local gyms and they'll play rec ball. And you can see that in their day they was nice, and you even know some of their credentials. And back in the day, they even played D1, played in the league or whatever. But now their steps slower. So you may be able to get them now. So you get them now. Does that mean you were a better ball player than them? No. They're just old, father time. It just is what it is. So if Jake Paul knocked out Carl Froch, you're telling me he deserves some credit for that?
Listen,
go ahead, G.
The real answer is no. But the real answer is yes. And the reason why is because every fighter does this, bro. Every fighter, every up-and-coming fighter gets an old head that was that dude back in the days just for their name on their resume, knowing that when you fought him, the dude was way beyond what he used to be. He's a shadow of himself.
Why they're still active most of the time, not while
what I'm saying is this: they're still not that person in the prime, but they still want to steal their name. Jake Paul is a guy who built a career off of beating MMA fighters. So if he could get a retired boxer on his resume, that's a great look. You know what I'm saying? Let's just be real. Like, he's just trying to legitimize his antics, and getting a retired legend on his resume. That's a good look for Jake Paul. Like, I think y'all looking at it too deep. Y'all looking at it as like Jake Paul's a real fighter. I'm looking at him like what he is. He's just a funny dude that's just playing boxing. You know what I'm saying? Like,
how would it? Here's the point I'm trying to make. It's just to simplify it. If I walked outside and I saw a 28-year-old man beating up a 60-year-old man, I wouldn't be impressed with that. It is regardless of training, regardless of what the 60-year-old man used to be or what the 28-year-old is. It wouldn't impress me because the 28-year-old has all the advantages. But if I saw the 60-year-old guy whooping a 28-year-old, I'd be like, man, OG getting them. You know what I mean? It'd be completely different. So, like, I can't feel like Jake Paul. Like, when you picked Anderson Silva to beat Jake Paul, I knew Anderson Silva wasn't going to beat Jake because he's too old. Jake would have never taken that fight 10 years ago.
Let me just defend myself. When you watch that fight, you notice that fight was rigged, bro. I'm telling you, all these Jake Paul fights at WWE, bro. Like, it looked like my man Anderson couldn't even go for the knockout. Like, I think they probably have that in the contract. Yo, you cannot knock out Jake Paul. Like, I'm being honest. It just looked so fake. So it's like,
well, if you think it's rigged, you think it's rigged. I don't know. I just didn't see.
And to add, Carl Froch ain't really that old. Him and Andre Ward, they're older, but they're still like pretty in shape guys. You know what I'm saying? Like,
there's a difference though. Andre Ward didn't take the amount of punishment that Froch took. Froch took a lot of punishment.
That's true.
Well, that stuff matters when you're talking about a fighter's age. Now, I hear you, G, but here's what I say, and then I'll just wrap it up. You have to decide. I saw David Haye beat someone on like a card. David Haye came out of retirement and outclassed one of these like dudes who's fighting from like YouTube or whatever. You see Floyd Mayweather coming out outclassing YouTubers and doing these things. if Froch still has it in his heart and he thinks like, yo, this is a great opportunity for me to steal some money, kind of like Floyd's doing, then do you, Froch, steal some money. But if Froch isn't in the gym and there's legitimate concerns about him and whether or not he can win the fight, he has nothing to prove. So to me, it's really a matter of what Froch wants to do. So I'm okay with it. The way I see it is everyone's doing it now. Everyone's doing it. These little exhibitions, these robbing the bank. Although for Froch, this would be a legacy fight because Jake got a real license. They're talking about if Jake beats Tommy Fury, the WBC is going to rank him. So, Froch, this isn't no exhibition. So, do you want to come out of retirement? And here's another thing Froch got to consider because Trill brought this up. He's a borderline Hall of Famer. So, you come back out for one more fight, that delays your wait again to become a Hall of Famer. Do you want to restart that clock? And what does that mean for you? So, anyways, the ball's in Froch's court. For me personally, I would love to see Jake Paul fight someone his age who's a threat and not try to get fame off of a legend's name.
Let us know how you feel in the comment section. Please like and subscribe. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter. And please check out our podcast on all major streaming services. No, for real, though. You got to check out the podcast because it's really a big deal. Everybody hits me up and they say they listen to the podcast driving to work. They listen to the podcast when they're working out. They listen to the podcast while they're cooking. They listen to the podcast. Everybody
listen to it while they're doing other stuff.
But we're not gonna mention that. You know,
listen to it though.
But shout out to everybody who checks us out on the podcast and everybody that watches us on YouTube. We appreciate it. We are the Boxing Bros.